I'll just go through how quick and easy it is to clean out a beautiful pond like this. So being under a residual tree like that, you get lots and lots of leaves. So the first thing I'll do is go through and scoop all the leaves out. I'll also monitor the fish's health. I'll give these containers a good siphon out because we've actually got marine pure media in the bottom of these containers. Fish are looking very good, not too fat, maybe a tiny bit skinny, but looking very good. This old guy's been going for a long time. I think his name was George. He's a beautiful fish. There's another filter here that I'll give a clean out. We'll get this looking nice. George is looking in good shape. There's another pump here giving plenty of water flow, which I'll give that a clean. All the fish are looking good, but it sure needs some attention. So that's what I'm here for now. Now, particularly because of the amount of rain that we've had. Whoa. Under the fly path. Because of the amount of rain we've had in the Sydney region, the KH and GH of this water is 0. Now that's not ideal. GH is a great immune system stimulant, which means if your GH level 0 and anything goes wrong, you'll find that the fish gets sick much easier. And the KH is 0 too, which means that there's no buffering capacity for the water. So rainwater will often do this. So if you've had lots of rain, you've got to keep an eye on your pond. You definitely want to keep an eye on pH, GH and KH because they tend to fall during times of extreme rain, particularly lately. Now the rest of the water quality in here is okay. There's no ammonia, no nitrite, no nitrate. That means the pond's been getting flushed very well, and it means it is adequately filtered and it is not being overfed, which is also evident with the fish. So I'd probably like to see the fish put a tiny bit more weight on, but in general I'm very happy with the nutrient side. I would just like to see the GH and KH maintained up a little bit higher. Now the easiest way for me to do that would be to get some coral bone, and putting some coral bone into these units, which has got very slow flow, would be a very good way of increasing the KH and maintaining your pH. So that's something I suggest for next service. Bring a nice big bag of coral bone. Maybe even putting some coral bone along the bottom of the pond might not be a bad idea because it's so dark at the moment. Maybe lightening it up will make the fish a little bit more visible. So what I'm doing now is giving the filter a clean. I love these filters. These Awasa filters are so great to work with. So all I've done is switch this switch from the pond to the backwash. Then I'm going to pump on this handle, and when I pump on this handle, you're going to see the water coming out of here completely black. And then as I pump on this handle more and more, eventually this will run clear. So that's currently just going off to the other side of the garden. So I'm just going to keep backwashing this and keep pumping that until the water runs clear. And then that's how I've cleaned the filter, by backwashing it. Once I'm finished, I'll then switch that back to pond. After I've connected that back, I'll put the little stop valve back on, and that will keep the thing going again. I also might check my records to see if we're due to replace the UV sterilizer, because the water's not really crystal clear, which means that it's quite possible that the sterilizer needs replacing. It should be really done yearly, so I'll figure that out. And then here we've got a little float box, and that controls the float switch, so you've got to make sure that's all nice and clear, so then as the water evaporates down, it fills itself back up, which it wouldn't have done lately due to the sheer amount of rain we've had in Sydney lately. Flooding everywhere. Now I've just found out another fun fact, is UV sterilizers are good if they're plugged in. So I will also find out why the UV is not plugged in. You'd never want to just go and plug something in, because you don't know if there's an electrical issue that you don't know about. So providing that the UV is all good, I can get that plugged in when I return and add some coral bone to stop the pH going down. So now what I'm doing is draining water out of the filter, which I'm backwashing, and I'm using it to clean the media that was in the filter. So you're basically just going to go like this, turn it over, give it a clean, and what we don't want to be doing is washing this with tap water, because what we're wanting is the good bacteria that's living inside this media to live. And if we clean it with tap water, the chlorine in the tap water can kill the good bacteria, and then the pond will not run smoothly. We need to be cleaning the media in tank water or pond water. Found a nice big earthworm. Fish will sure love this. Who's a nice big fellow will like eating this for this. Oops, slippery little bastard. Come on guys, hey, you want that? Look at that. Don't you see it? Like you didn't know what it is. You'll go and find it now for sure. Well, here we go. Yeah, he's eating it now. Fish love to eat earthworms. Alright. There you go, mate. I hope you enjoyed that little bit of lunch. So I've just given the urns a clean out, and I'm getting a very distinct smell of hydrogen sulfide in the bottom of these urns too. So it is really important that if you clean the urns out, you want to empty the water out, because you definitely don't want the hydrogen sulfide going back into the pond. It can be risky to the fish. You want it going down the drain. So we just want to flush it all out, and probably make sure that this is done a little bit more regularly, so preferably doesn't get into this state in the first place, because hydrogen sulfide can be risky for people and fish. Easy to fix, clean it a bit more often. So the idea of servicing your pond is get the crap out of your pond, get some clean water in your pond. So you can see very clearly here that the water coming out of this is basically black. So we're getting a lot of crap out of this. And because it's got an auto top-up system, it's going to be topping itself up. So it's also quite important that every sort of 10 minutes during this service, I need to go and distribute a bit of water ager around. So what the water ager will do is help to detoxify various things, and definitely help to mitigate any chlorine that may be introduced during this process while you've got top-up system running. So it's really important not to do these sorts of jobs and just forget all about the top-up system, otherwise you'll be in all sorts of trouble. Regular additions as water's going in is how you make this little process safe, because when you run water ager, it takes 3 seconds to work, then it's done. Look at that. That is a nice big brown river. Whew. We'll get it all cleaned up by the end. Make sure it's all nice and clean. But we sure are getting some crap out of this pond, and it will be very happy when we're finished. Now what I'm going to do is go and scoop out lots of leaves, because as you can see, under a big residual tree like this, we're going to get massive amounts of leaves. So I'm going to go scoop the ones off the surface, and then I'm going to scoop down deep, make sure I don't scoop any fish, and we'll get lots and lots of leaves out of here, because the more leaves we can remove, the more decomposition we can stop, and the higher the water quality is going to be as a result. So we want to go on scoopy all the leaves out, and the more regularly that's done, the better the pond will be. Takes 2 seconds, but works very well. Now, 2 major factors that would make a pond like this need to be cleaned more often is heavy periods of rain, which is what we've just experienced, and also residual trees. So a tree like this dumps huge amounts of leaf litter into the pond, and definitely increases the maintenance on what it normally would. The other factor is overfeeding. If the pond was overfed, which this does not seem to be, that would be another factor. So not all ponds are created equally. Due to the very extreme amount of sediment in the bottom of this pond, once again, predominantly due to heaps of wind, residual trees above the pond, and heaps of rain, the sediment in the bottom of this pond is extreme. So that little swirly swirl there pulled all this leaf litter out. So what I'm going to suggest we do is when we come back, I'm going to bring some water cleanser blocks, and then they can go in the water and introduce what's called OEMs, which are oil-eating microorganisms, which are very aggressive scavengers that are very good for breaking down solid waste like this. It helps to desludge the pond, and it's cheaper than my man hours doing it manually. Very fortunate situation because it's a raised pond. Now most ponds, to siphon the bottom, you need an actual like pond vac, a vacuum cleaner. But because this pond is elevated, I'm able to just use a siphon pipe for siphoning the bottom, which is a really easy way of just getting all the crap off the bottom of the pond. That's one of the benefits of having a raised pond. You don't need an expensive vac to clean the bottom. Pumps are run by water pumps, and water pumps have inlets, and inlets need to be cleaned on a semi-regular basis. So I've got one pump here and one pump over there, and they were completely covered in leaf litter and crap. So how they were pumping is beyond me, because they were completely clogged. I have declogged it with my hand, but once again, this pond has zero visibility because of the amount of sludge that was in the pond. So we're desludging it, but servicing a pond is really not the case where you can just go and do it once and just think it's going to be clean, because there's so much sediment in that water that will settle again, and it will just need doing again. It will need multiple services in order to get it to any state where you might actually be happy with it. So you can't be unrealistic. You can't think, oh, I'll get the pond guy out and suddenly my pond's going to look amazing. That's not the case. Your pond's just going to look a bit better. So structurally and biologically, a service like this makes a massive help. But it really isn't a one-shot solution. You've got to do this again and again and again to get to a level where maybe you're happy with that. Now this outlet here that is currently agitating the surface, that often falls down. And the more this outlet agitates the surface, the more oxygenated the water is going to be. And that's going to help the biological processes within the pond. And it's definitely going to help the fish as well by raising dissolved oxygen level, raising redox potential, and helping to degas a whole lot of crap. So we don't want to have it so high that it's noisy and it might annoy the neighbors, but we definitely want to have it high enough that it's agitating the surface. Right now the water level is quite low because I've been draining water out. Once the water fills up again, that should be just a nice ripple. And if we can keep that a nice ripple just by lifting that pipe up, chucking a rock underneath it, then we're going to get a much better result out of the pond. So now it's just refilling itself back up again. And one thing that you never ever want to do before you leave a job is not check all the pumps. You want to check everything's plugged back in again. So in this case, what I'm going to do is switch this back to work. Then I'm just going to take that off, put the cap back on again, like this. Now that's back to operation again. Our top-up system is busy topping up. I'll stop this water siphoning. Now I'm going to add some KH. Now I'm going to purposely add the KH in here because that will very slowly dribble out of there and back into the pond again. So that's empty, and then there was something over here empty. What you don't want to do too is with all your fish stuff you don't really want to keep your empty containers lying around, because often it will give you a false impression that you've got the stock you need. So we want to throw out the containers that are being used, because we'll definitely want some KH and GH for this job next time we attend, which I'm going to suggest sooner or later, just to make up for how dirty the water is this time. The other thing that could help too is foods. If you change to, say, Spectrum's probiotic food, that can help keep it clean. Otherwise, my favourite food for these sorts of fish would be Danichi. And once again, with the super high quality foods, if you overfeed the super high quality foods, you'll find they're dirty. If you don't overfeed them, you'll find they're actually super clean. So anyway, that's this pond done. It'll fill itself back up now, and it will improve drastically. But if you just went through this process when you see your pond needs it, and if in doubt, come and see us down at Majestic Aquariums. Bring a little video of the pond running. We want to see all your filters, we want to see all your bits and pieces, and we want to see your water flow in your pond and your fish, and bring us a sample and we can guide you. So there you go, George, that'll keep you busy.